So this scripture passage, Mark 1, 1 through 8, is the start of Mark's gospel. And it is here that we are introduced to John the Baptist. John the Baptist in the Gospels is kind of, he's the forerunner for Jesus. The comparison that is a lot of times made is to like one of the, prophets, a prophet like Isaiah, speaking the word to prepare that sort of way before Jesus comes and begins his own ministry. And John was an individual who most scholars believe that he was a part probably of either broke off from the Essenes or he was a part of the Essenes, which was a group of people in Israel at that time who tended to live outside of society, focused purely on spiritual sort of matters in communes, and didn't necessarily dress super nicely, didn't necessarily, engage in kind of the normal day-to-day lives of society. The Dead Sea Scrolls, if you've ever heard of those were found at what was an Essene commune, or the ruins of one. They've actually excavated around there and found all of this type of stuff, and they probably wrote those, at least those copies. So this is kind of who John was. Now, at the time that he came, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, the situation in Israel was not ideal. Israel was conquered by the Romans. It was a very stressful time. It was a time that, things were not great. And there was a lot of, I'm sure, fear at that time, a lot of questioning. But there was also a lot of hope. And the belief at that time was that generation was going to see the coming of the Messiah. And as it turns out, they were right. And so John's message here, like his prophecy that he kind of gives about, somebody who's coming who is going to be, that he's not even going to have the right to, to untie his sandals. He's referring to the coming Messiah, and it really is a message of hope. And I think that is something that is very important for us to keep in mind at this time. One of the big questions I asked going into this and going into Advent this year is, how does it, relate to us today? How does it relate to us in 2020? And with the year that we have had, where there's been just all of this craziness, all of this, turmoil, stress, I really think the thing that we can take, especially from this passage, is the power of hope and the power of like waiting with hope for better days and better times. And that is what the Jews believed that the Messiah's coming was signaling. Now, they were right, but not necessarily in the way that they were thinking. But that is something that I think that for us we need to kind of keep in mind at this time, is to understand that things are going to get better, and that we do have a God who is on our side and is going to get us through all of this. And as long as we kind of root ourselves in that hope, we can make it through and we can get on there. So that I really think is the thing that we should be taking away at this time, at this Advent season, is focusing on that kind of hope that comes with the coming of Christ. So that is all I have for you this week. I hope that you found it helpful wherever you are. Now we're going to be moving into our last song today, so please join me at home as we sing.